Whitworth softball is in good hands with Crystal Brown.
Gotta be yours, kid. If you like it, go hard with that hit.
Now in her 7th season, she has taken the Pirates to unparalleled heights. But her unlikely path to leading this group of young women in Spokane, Washington, starts in a home along the highway in Bakersfield, California, where Crystal grew up with her grandparents.
My grandpa was a complex man. He drank too much. My grandmother drank too much. It was either my grandma or the kids. He was going to be mad at one of us if he was drunk, and you wanted to be on the good side of it.
Crystal does have good memories too, like building forts with her 2 younger siblings or playing sports with the neighborhood kids. But she always knew something set her apart.
I knew that I didn't have people to call mom and dad.
Crystal's parents weren't really ever in the picture. Her mom, Kathy, had been gone since she was 3, no trace of her since. Her dad, Brent, would come around, but there was no telling when.
He was in and out of jail, eventually in and out of prison. He was an addict. My mom was an addict. It could be 2-3 years would go by and I wouldn't see him, or it could be 6 months and I would see him. It was what it was. It was all that I knew.
But by the time she hit high school, Crystal's lifestyle was heading toward that of the parents she never knew.
Instead of going to classes, I was hanging out with the potheads and the stoners at Circle K. Doing so poorly my freshman year is what convinced my grandfather to let me pursue a sport. And he said, you can pick one. And so I picked softball. Little did I know that then a year later I would be transferring and the softball coach at North High would be Randy, one of them that would forever change my life.
Electing not to go to class has gotten a lot of local teens into trouble, but sometimes you can turn things around before it's too late. One area teenager did that. Now she's getting ready to turn the tassel. Brown transferred to North behind by some 20 credits, but earned all-area honors as a softball player and took that determination into the classroom.
Sure, we first noticed her good work ethic in softball. She always would stay after and hit, an extra bucket of balls, and she'd want extra ground balls. And I think that's what really attracted us to Crystal. She was pretty raw, quite raw, and found out that after the course of a couple, 3 practices, she had a lot of speed. And she had some athleticism, but just super, super raw.
It was Randy Clark who helped turn Crystal into one of the area's best players. But little did they both know, he'd end up doing a lot more.
One night I saw her, it was getting dark, and she's walking along the road towards a main street, not a residential area. I found out she got on a bus by herself.
It wasn't until later that I found out that they had followed the bus and saw where I was being dropped off.
A very, very, very bad area.
Before long, Crystal was staying with Randy and his family in order to make weekend tournaments.
We asked a lot of questions and got to know her pretty well and realized that her life was not great.
That's where they really started kind of getting involved with helping me make a path.
A path which took a more serious turn thanks to one phone call.
They overheard an argument when I was on the phone with them in my house, and it wasn't the way that family members should talk to each other.
Living in that environment would never, ever, ever work. If you're serious about wanting to do this, and we'll do everything we can to help you, you really need to move in with us.
So, the day after graduating from North High, that's what Crystal did.
It was a 180 flip for me to be in that home. You had to have trust and honesty and things like that. So it was a culture shock, but I jumped in both feet.
Randy and his family gave Crystal a new chance at life, starting with college, and a career which took her first to Bakersfield College, where she was a JC Player of the Year. Next, a stop at Azusa Pacific and eventual All-American honors, and then only fitting, a senior season spent under Randy and a startup program at the Masters University.
She became a very good leader on most of the teams that she was on, not only because she had great wisdom and common sense, but she could perform, and on the field, everyone respected her.
I had realized at that point that softball totally saved my life. Softball kept me from following in the same path that my parents, you can't do drugs and be an athlete.
And Randy helped Crystal see that up close, reuniting her with her dad when she was 19.
He said, I'm 40 years old at that, so he was my age at that point in time. And he says, I've been in this world for so long that it's too late for me to change. And then shortly thereafter, he ended up back in prison. But those 2 days were the best days that I had ever been able to see my dad just kind of in a normal setting.
Then, as her family's first college graduate, a meeting with her mom, 20 years after the last.
Spent really the 6.5 hours talking about her life and realized that she had far less opportunity and caring in her life than I ever had. And it's really my only memory of her. You know, I was so young when she left that I don't really remember the first 3 years of my life.
And those special days spent catching up would prove to be Crystal's final memories of the parents she never had.
I get this email from my aunt who had let me know it was my dad that she was letting me know about. He had died of a drug overdose. It was basically found next to train tracks. And at the bottom it just said, P.S. I'm assuming that you knew that your mom had also died about 6 months prior to that. I didn't expect to feel the sadness that I felt because I didn't really ever have a relationship with either one of them. I would have loved to have seen them be able to pull it together somehow.
Well off her parents' fateful path, Crystal instead followed in Randy's footsteps, embarking on a coaching career which first saw her lead small-town Kingsburg High to unmatched success. Then one day she saw an opening.
And I texted Randy and said, there's this school in, this college in Spokane that's looking for a softball coach. You should apply.
I told her, I said, no, you ought to apply for this job, which she did. And within a matter of a week, they flew her up here, and very quickly after that, they offered her the job, which kind of surprised her.
There was one catch, though.
I said, I will do it, but you have to be willing to come and do it with me, or I'm not going to do it.
And I go, absolutely.
Keep it going, man!
Let's go! 7 years later, Crystal and Randy have turned Pirate softball into one of the area's, if not one of the country's, premier programs.
1, 2, 3, service!
In 2015, the Bucks won their first Northwest Conference title. They've won the next 2 since as well.
It's just a real honor to watch her, and her knowledge of the sport's phenomenal, and her values are right. I mean, she obviously wants to win, she's aggressive and all that, but it's way more than just the softball that she's really into, so it's really neat to see.
A way of coaching and mentoring Crystal developed firsthand from Randy some 20-plus years ago. A life-changing and life-saving bond, stronger now than ever.
Even by touching just one person, if I can go out and do that to softball players or students or whoever it is that I come in contact with, then I'm furthering what he's done for me. He's my best friend. He's been a father figure to me. He's been a mentor to me. He encourages me and motivates me and sometimes yells at me to be a better person. I don't think that this life happened to me just by chance. I think that God absolutely had a plan for exactly where I'm supposed to be when, and for Randy being a part of that.